Alright, Origin football is upon us, which means we're about halfway through the season, so today I'm going to be grading every single team's start of the year. If you are excited for this video, make sure you drop a thumbs up, comment how you think your team has started the season, and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Now, what we're going to do today is go from the ladder from top all the way through to the bottom, giving a grading for the team and a couple of comments about how I think they're going and that sort of thing. Alright, let's crack straight into it. Starting off with the Sharkies, I'm going to be giving them an A for this season. I think when you look at, so for me, they've definitely exceeded my expectations. When you look at it, beating the Storm in Melbourne without Nicho Hynes, and then beating the Roosters in Magic Round, show they have what it takes this year to be a real contender in this competition. However, there are still cracks. Heavy losses to the Tigers and the Panthers have shown that there's still some work that needs to be done before they're going to be like a true premiership contender. However, I do think that this season, man, they really could be cracking that top four, obviously that top four, but making it to prelims and testing out whoever they play in that game there. Second, at the moment, is the Panthers. I'm going to be giving them an A. They've been what we've come to know from the Panthers system. No clearance, still able to win games and win well. For example, that game last weekend against the Sharkies. Jerome Luai has really stepped up to the plate this season, and even reserve grade guys, like those guys that are coming in, filling in spots and that sort of thing. Paul Alamotti, for example, has been fantastic when called upon this season. And they're just this Panthers team, man. They're so defensively sound. That defensive structure and that system is obviously brought up throughout the whole club. And it's going to be so scary when they're full strength again. They're probably going to go 4 in a row. All right. Now, for the Storm, giving them an A+. Now, that's because at the start of the year, I, stupidly enough, thought they didn't have the depth to keep up this year. And how wrong I was. They practically were undefeated, and Nelson hadn't even played a game yet. And someone like Tyron Wishart has been fantastic this year. And the fact they're third, 8-3 record, with Cameron Munster missing a lot of the year so far, Jerome Hughes missing a fair amount of the year, and Ryan Pappenhausen being injured again. There was a stat when they were all named together. It's been something like 650 days since they'd all played together, and they're still and now they're missing large portions of the year again, and they're still third. It's genuinely nuts how they can do it. Craig Bellamy, props to you. One of the best to ever do it. And then the Dolphins, who are currently in fourth, I'm giving them an A+ because, geez, they've been good. The fact that they're top 4 and they've been absolutely decimated with injuries and that sort of thing, the fact that they can remain top 4 with the squad they have and the players they've been selecting is outrageous. Isaiah Katoa has been absolutely sensational. What an absolute find from Wayne Bennett, developing him into one of the best halves in the comp. He for me is the best young half in the comp anyway, and I think they could seriously cause some trouble at the back end of the year with the squad that they've got. Now fifth, so the Roosters, I give them a B+. I think they finally got it to click earlier in the season than they have the previous years. They seem to come good towards the back end of the season, but I think they're going to be playing more consistent footy throughout the year. I think they've sort of been playing with a bit of a different system. It's more built to Sam Walker's play style rather than trying to fit Sam Walker into a role that he can't play, or that's not natural to him. I think Victor Radley has been much more improved in a more simplified role, and then guys like Connor Watson have been fantastic. Such a shame he got injured, but I'm still with that as well. I'm still not fully convinced that Brandon Smith is the right guy for the Roosters, but he's playing his role, and their forward rotation is honestly nuts. The fact that each week you've got a guy Siwa Wong and one of the Butcher brothers missing out shows how nuts that squad is. It's not fair to be playing this simple. It's not fair. Guys like Terrell May been playing sensational this year. Nofafua White has been great. He's one of those guys that he's sort of throughout his career so far, I thought he's been okay, average, does a job, but he's been great off the bench for them this year. And we'll move on to the Broncos. All right, probably a bit harsh. I'm giving them a C+. They haven't been bad, but they certainly haven't replicated their form from last year. And this year, they meant to compound on what they did last year. They made a grand final. They meant to get better, push on, try and win a comp this year. And at the moment, I don't think that they're at that level. I think for me, the game against the Titans on the weekend highlighted their key issues. The fact they scored 34 points and couldn't win the game, especially against a severely depleted Titans outfit. They were missing 3 or 4 of their key attackers. They had 2 second rowers in the centers. Broncos defensively need some fixing. And just the amount of simple errors that they made. Like, I get they play an up-tempo, expansive style of football, and it's so entertaining to watch. But if you're a Broncos fan, I'd be getting so frustrated. Like, they should have put 60 on that Titans team yesterday if it wasn't for silly errors. I just need to realize like the time and place for when to be that, like, their flamboyant and expansive best. And I think that sort of comes to the fact that they do have a very young squad. And with this comment as well, they're missing Adam Reynolds a lot when he's not there. I think if he can come back and be fit for the rest of the season, the Broncos, well, again, we'll probably see him in a grand final. But right now, there's things to definitely work on for the Broncos. They should not be 6th. They should be in the top 4. Now, 7th is the Knights. I've given them a B. They haven't replicated their form from the end of last year, which is never going to happen. And I feel like the Knights kind of think that would just happen. I think if you told Knights fans, though, that they'd be top 8 going into Origin with no Ponga, they would definitely take it. They started the year slow, and I think it's because, like, they were trying to force things a bit when they weren't there. They weren't coming as easy as they did last year. I don't know if they were putting in as much effort as they were last year because they thought, back in the last year it was so easy. It's going to be like that again, which it's not going to be. I do find it interesting that they play better when Ponga isn't there, and I feel like it's because they're not just feeding him the ball and waiting for him to do something. Like, it's sort of everything's happening a little bit more naturally, which I feel like if they just keep playing the same way they do when Ponga will be back, they'll be a scary outfit. But shout out to David Armstrong. He has been super impressive to start the season. The Raiders, I'm giving them an A-. The Raiders, they shouldn't be 8th. They're not meant to be in the 8th. They were too experienced. There's not enough depth in their outside backs. They should be in a transition period. However, Ricky Stewart just does Ricky Stewart things. He's got them up and about, and they're honestly in for finals contention if they have a strong back end of the year. And the thing is as well, this is all that Jamal Fogarty. They're one sort of like combining piece. Their experience, their direction. Like, he was playing really good footy before he ruptured his bicep. But you know what it is? It's just a typical Canberra Raiders season. Like, I had them on the spoon. I'll be honest. I had them winning the spoon, and look at them. Proven everyone wrong once again. Okay, we'll get into the bottom 9 now. We have Manly. I've given them a B-. The start of the year, they look like world beaters. They've won some games they shouldn't have won, but they've lost some games that they shouldn't have lost as well. No Turbo, again, it's going to hurt them. It's just, that is what it is. The thing is, though, like, they're losing through the middle of the year anyway, for Origin, so you've got to expect that. I think, like, bloke at a bar, Campy talks about it a lot. The Anthony Seibold teams start really well, but start to taper off a little bit throughout the season. And I think it's a very good thing for Manly as a football club to have sort of not halted, I'm not sure what the right word is, but with Anthony Seibold's contract negotiations, they've sort of stopped, they've paused them for now, due to, like, just the fact that their form's dropped off a little bit, because you can get yourself stuck in a little bit of a knot if you re-sign your coach, and it just hasn't been great. They've got a weird defensive structure. Like, they've seemed to conceded a lot of soft tries. Not sure what the go is there, but Manly are a team that should be making the finals given their squad. So that's that. Now, Bulldogs, I'm going to give them an A. Because, to be honest, I thought they were on for another bottom 4 season this year, but they're genuine top 8 contenders for me. Like, it's basically, as long as the Bulldogs can sort out their away form, then they're sweet. They're 5-6 on the season, but they're 0-6 away from home. Make of that what you will. I think Cameron Serrato's defensive structure has seriously started to kick in this season. In terms of points conceded, they're the second best team in the comp. They're only one of 2 clubs to concede less than 200 points this season, and the other one is Penrith. So that really says a lot about how far the Bulldogs have come. Their attack will eventually click. I think we even saw on the weekend against the Dragons. Moving forward, Toby Sexton might be the answer for their 7 because it just allows them to play with a lot more attacking flair and creativity. So, man, the Doggies definitely could be making the finals this season, which is fantastic for Bulldogs fans. We'll move on now to the Cowboys, who we shouldn't be talking about this low. They're a D for me. We've seen the potential of this squad. They've made the top 4, and they just haven't been able to replicate that form. I'm not sure what the problem is because they've got great players across the park, but they can't seem to get the results to reflect that. I do think potentially it's time for a system change at the Cows, whether that is with Todd Payton or without Todd Payton. bringing in a new coach, new structures. There's something I also feel like if you look at their squad, it hasn't had much of a refresh over those last few years. Like, have they really brought in anyone across the park? Like, I feel like it's been pretty much the same team the whole time. I feel like, respectfully to Chad Townsend, maybe a new 7 is the answer, or even like bringing a new 6 in and shifting Tommy Dearden back into a 7. I'm not sure, but it is hard for the Cowboys to recruit though because of just their location. Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Like, as I said, like they should be doing a lot better than they are. Like there's no way that I should be talking about the Cowboys down in 11th position. But let's move on to 12th, who is the Dragons. Now, I'm going to give them a B-, because every man and their dog said they'd get the spoon. And if you ask me, like, as a Dragons fan, or ask the Dragons, if they take being 5 and 6 after 12 rounds at the start of the season, I would have said, yeah, the fact that we've already won more games than we did last season in going into Origin, absolutely. The disappointing and concerning thing for the Dragons, however, is just the manner of how they lose. So, like, when they win tight games and they show so much, like, tenacity and thicker and muscle. However, they've had some massive totals run up on them already so far this season. Like, 40+ against the Cowboys and the Bulldogs, who are only 1 or 2 positions ahead of them on the ladder, isn't good enough. And the fact they've had 60 against them against the Roosters on Anzac Day, where it's a game we really meant to get up for it, again, really, really concerning. And it does seem like that toxic culture of giving up when it gets a bit hard and that sort of thing is still there, which Flanagan has to sort out and filter out about who those players are and that sort of thing. Like, similar, it feels like to me a little bit of a similar position to how the Bulldogs were last year, where it's just you need to make sure you've got a full squad of players who can buy in. Then we've got the Warriors in 13th. They're getting a D. They've absolutely not been able to lift to the lofty heights they did of 2023. Seems like they put in so much hard work, but really, really bought into Andrew Webster's system last year. Seems like they just thought it was going to be easy this year. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like they sort of just forgot about how much effort it does take to get to a prelim. Maybe they've just got a bit of burnout, like a bit of a hangover from last season with like how hard they did work. Over the last 2 weeks, however, seemingly they are turning their form around. Great wins against the Panthers and the Dolphins with basically their New South Wales Cup side. But in saying that, with their roster, they shouldn't be 13th. However, if they keep playing the way they have over the last 2 weeks, like once everyone's back, they could make the finals. Like Dad said, if they keep playing how they have, and you add in Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Sean Johnson, Adam Fanor-Blake, if he does want to be there, guys like that, Chance, Nickel Klukstad as well. Like, there's so many players out for them at the moment. They're just big profile names. Add them all in there, they play like this, they'll be sweet. Then 14th, we have the Titans. I'm giving them a C-. They're tough to grade because there was such high expectations on them at the start of the year, and they were so poor to begin the year. But they are turning it around now. A massive win over the Broncos with essentially half their team out. Like, David Fafita played center. Bo Fermor played center. Like, no Jaden Campbell, no AJ Brimson, no Kieran Foran. They had no one. They weren't meant to win that game, and they did. So I think that could really be a catalyst for them to push on for the rest of the year. But the good thing for Titans fans is, though, however, like, you can see what Desi is trying to build. It's just going to take time. You've just got to be patient. The Eels are up next. An F for me. They have been abysmal. With that squad, they should be pushing for top 4. They should be pushing for top 4, not loitering around in the bottom 4. They got rid of Brad Arthur, which I think they will regret moving forward. It's just an interesting time to do it with no Mitch Moses or no Gutho, which doesn't help how they're playing. Like, they're 2 best players by a long way. They should be doing way better. They need to get a new coach. I don't know who you get out on the market at the moment. That's why I feel like sacking Brad Arthur wasn't the best thing to do at the moment. But like, they just need to start building for the future, moving forward. This year, it's a write-off. Unfortunately, that's 2 years in a row you're not going to make the finals. But with this squad, that's not acceptable. Need to be better. And then the Tigers, look, I'm giving them a D+. Like, it's just tough with the Tigers, man. Like, they looked great. The first month of footy, I was like, wow, the Tigers have turned it around. They're really going well. But since then, they have lost 7 in a row, which is really, really hard. And I think it's just because their team's so young and inexperienced, and it sucks for these guys that they're coming into the NRL in a losing culture. But Benji's obviously doing his best to turn that around. I do think, however, though, like, like with their experience, it shows when they play. Like lots of cheap penalties, like so many piggybacks. The other team coming out of their own end. Really simple errors, trying to push passes that aren't there, trying to just lazy simple errors, and they often honestly end up beating themselves. Like there's lots of talent in their roster, and they do try their best week to week. And suspensions and injuries have genuinely plagued the Tigers this season. Again, similar to the Titans, like you can see improvements and you can see what Ben is trying to do. Again, it's just going to take time. Like if you can keep this core group of young players together over the next 3 or 4 seasons, I reckon you'll see fruits of your labour there. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is the South Sydney Rabbitohs, which I don't think there's any surprises here. They're getting an F. For a team that should be pushing top 4 spot and a pass mark for them basically being making a prelim, they've just honestly plain and simply not been good enough. Demetrio needed to go. Wayne Bennett coming back in will be the best thing for them. I don't know whether, like, look, their roster is fantastic, but they might need to clean out. It just seems like there's a lot of tension at the club behind closed doors. So, look, Wayne Bennett might come in and either sort that out and just say, look, you all need to start loving each other again, or just go, righto, you out, and bring some other players in. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what he does, because there's just obviously a lot going on behind closed doors to that team, for that club, for that team to be playing so poorly. They've dead certainly got a representative roster there, and they're last, and they don't, like, I mean, they got a good win in Indigenous round against another struggling side in the Eels, but apart from that, they haven't really looked like winning a game, to be honest. So that's all the ratings that I have for this season so far for your team's first half of the season. Let me know how I rated your team, if you think it was fair or unfair, any like changes you would make to that, and just how you see your team going towards the end of the season. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Remember to always Scotty, drink your water, and Bradman, do your best.